Joining me now, MSNBC contributor Michael McFaul, the former U.S. ambassador to Russia. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us. Happy New Year to you. Let's start with these sanctions.
As they say in Russian.
Thank you. I need to work on my Russian. Let's turn to these sanctions, and they were issued in part, according to the Obama administration, as retaliation to diplomats in Moscow being treated poorly there. You felt some of that mistreatment yourself personally. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I did. When there was an uptick in tensions between our two countries at the beginning of 2012, our entire embassy felt harassment. Sometimes it would be petty things like the slashing of tires of some of my diplomats. At other times, there would be break-ins to apartments. And sometimes there would be following of our staff, including me, in a way that you knew that you were being followed, in a way to create anxiety when you're at your soccer game or going to church.
I had read also that you had recently applied for a visa to go back to Russia and you were denied. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. Back when the Russians intervened in eastern Ukraine and supported insurgents there, the Obama administration, rightly in my view, imposed some very sanctions on some very senior officials in the Russian government and Russian industry, and therefore they had their own list, and I'm on that list. And that tit for tat back in 2014, that's what is different about the current set of sanctions, where Mr. Putin so far has not responded to what the Obama administration just did a few days ago.
Well, let's turn to that decision by Putin. It's being looked at in a couple of different ways. One is this slightly brilliant strategy on his part in light of a new administration coming in. And then the other side is that this is actually this genuine olive branch out to the U.S. How do you view his decision?
Well, I wouldn't use the word brilliant, first of all. Most certainly, he has done some very uncommensurate things sometimes in the past, where he doubled down and tripled down in these tit-for-tats. You know, and I'm happy that he's not throwing our diplomats out. Let's be honest about that. He's not disrupting their work and their families. I applaud that. I think that's a good decision. Those people did nothing wrong. And that's why this kind of moral equivalence between what we did and what they did is wrong. The Russians intervened in our presidential election. There has to be a response to that. Our diplomats in Moscow have done nothing wrong. Having said that, the explanation is obvious. He's waiting for Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump, just like those people that you were interviewing, your colleague was interviewing on the streets of Moscow. I would just remind everybody that this is a common cycle. At the end of the Clinton administration, there was lots of hope for George W. Bush. That ended very sourly. At the beginning of the Obama administration, there was lots of hope that Obama would change everything, and now we see how that's ended sourly. So I'm a little bit skeptical that Mr. Trump is going to save the day and change everything in U.S.-Russian relations, but, you know, let's wait and see.
There was a fair dose of that skepticism on the Hill this week as well. You had Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee, who sits on the Homeland Security Committee. She told MSNBC yesterday that Putin will fire back. Listen to what she had to say.
Putin is a KGB yesterday, today, and tomorrow. What he is not doing publicly now in response to these sanctions, you can be assured that there are probably covert actions, or that he is preparing to act at some time later when he feels it is appropriate. Right now, he's gaining public applause in Russia for his demeanor and his tempered actions. That's not going to last.
So, I mean, Putin obviously has goals, and this is a strategy to reach those goals. What would you say his wish list, his top 3 things that he wants out of U.S.-Russia relations?
Well, I'm glad you framed it that way, because he's not doing anybody any favors. By the way, I don't think much diplomacy is ever about doing favors for friends. He is doing this right now, this olive branch, waiting for President Trump to take office to receive concessions. At the top of his list is the lifting of economic sanctions that the Obama administration and the European Union put in place in response to his intervention in Ukraine. That's at the top of his list. And if Donald Trump will do that. He'll throw a great party for him in the Kremlin and say, you know, we are friends now. Second, he would like to see the kind of recognition of what he's been doing in Syria from the new administration. And third, in his dream of dreams, he would love for the new Trump administration to recognize his annexation of Crimea in Ukraine. If he did all three of those things, that's what he would seek, and to not throw out 30 U.S. diplomats in return, that's a great deal for Vladimir Putin.
There are a number of politicians on both sides of the aisle that would have something to say about all three of those. Former ambassador to Russia and MSNBC contributor Michael McFaul, thank you very much for joining me.
Sure. Thanks for having me.